Hello and welcome. I am Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. Donald Trump's new tariffs have taken effect as markets throughout Asia plunge. He calls the fall in stock a necessary medicine, while the US Treasury Secretary tells citizens there's no reason to fear a recession despite expert warnings. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says there has been no word from the United States since Vladimir Putin rejected a temporary ceasefire deal. A Russian envoy says US ceasefire mediation could resume next week as fighting in the region continues. The leader of France's National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen, has called her conviction for embezzling EU funds a political decision and vowed not to give up her political aspirations. She says she will fight the ruling, which came out last week and bars her from the 2027 presidential race. A Palestinian teenager with US citizenship has been killed by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. This comes as Gaza rescuers report that Israeli strikes have killed 44 people in the past 24 hours. As nightly protests continue in Turkey, the main opposition has called for early elections to be held in November. The opposition leader has vowed to keep up protests against the jailing of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. Heavy rains in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa, have left around 30 people dead and caused widespread destruction in the city. Flood victims either drowned or died when their homes' walls collapsed. A manhunt is underway in western Germany after 3 bodies were found in a residential building. The small village of around 2,200 people has been cordoned off, and a helicopter is being used to track the fleeing suspect. A second child has died from measles as the outbreak continues to spread in the US state of Texas. The child was unvaccinated and had no underlying health conditions. US Secretary of Health Robert F. Kennedy is facing backlash over his handling of the crisis. Our top and developing story today, US President Donald Trump continues to defend his sweeping tariffs despite the market turmoil and continuous calls for a trade war. He further went on saying that foreign governments would have a lot of money to lift sweeping tariffs he characterized as medicine, prompting further carnage in global financial markets. Asian markets posted steep losses ranging from Japan's Nikkei 225 dropping by 6.3% to Australia's ASX 200, which dipped by 6%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng, which is down by 9.8%, as well as the US market expecting its worst fall in nearly 40 years, registering further concerns that Trump tariffs could lead to higher prices, weaker demand and a potential global recession. Indian markets also see a bloodbath, with Nifty Sensex down at 4%, with small and mid caps crumbling. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng index plummeted by more than 9% as Chinese tech giants saw significant losses, with Alibaba down 14% and Tencent losing more than 10%. In Japan, Renesas Electronics led the way with a sharp drop of 14.10% as of 12:50 p.m. Singapore time. Other significant losses were seen in SoftBank Group, which fell 10.14%, and Advantest Corporation, which pared its losses to 7.91%. The widespread sell-off reflects mounting concerns about the global economic outlook. US officials say more than 50 countries and territories have reached out to Washington for trade talks. Here is what the US President and the US Treasury Secretary had to say.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world. I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix it.
50 countries have approached the have approached the administration about lowering their non-tariff trade barriers, lowering their tariffs, stopping currency manipulation, and they've been bad actors for a long time, and it's not the kind of thing you can negotiate away in days or weeks. There doesn't have to be a recession. Who knows how the market is going to react in a day, in a week. What we are looking at is building the long-term economic fundamentals for prosperity.
With growing concerns of a major financial crisis, one that's drawing comparisons to Black Monday, on October the 19th, 1987, the Dow Jones plunged by 22.6% in a single day. It remains the worst one-day drop in Wall Street history. Fast forward to now, April the 6th, 2025. Jim Cramer, well-known financial analyst and TV host, has issued a chilling warning. He said that we could see another bloodbath today. Cramer points to the escalating global tariff war sparked by US President Donald Trump. The president's latest tariff moves have spooked investors across the globe. Countries are already hitting back with the retaliatory tariffs of their own. Cramer urged the US president to reach out to those who play by the rules. He said diplomacy is the only way to avoid a devastating crash. Yesterday, the warning signs were clear. Dow's futures dropped over 1,400 points. S&P and Nasdaq futures fell more than 4% and 5%, respectively. Investors fear we are headed into another Black Monday. But what exactly happened in 1987? Black Monday was triggered by a mix of market forces. A long bull market had pushed stock prices to unsustainable highs. Computerized trading systems began selling automatically as prices dipped. That caused a chain reaction, triggering even more sell-offs. There was panic. No one was buying, and at the end of the day, the Dow had lost nearly a quarter. We are joined by Dr. Jajit Bhattacharya, President of the Center for Digital Economy Policy Research, located in New Delhi, and we're also joined by Nisha Shoyal Agarwalska, partner for the KG Somani LLP, located also in New Delhi. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Dr. Jajit, I want to come to you first. Is this another Black Monday 2.0? Are the figures pointing to that happening again like they did possibly in 1987?
As you explained, Black Monday, one of the key ingredients was algorithmic trading, and therefore we had a sharp fall in one day because algorithms took over and there was no checks and balances. Now there have been checks and balances put in place. So it's not that we'll have a downfall of 25% in one day, but we have had a downfall of over 35% over the last few trading sessions. So we are already in a Black Monday situation, but it's not happening in one day, it's happening over the last 3-4 days. The US market has lost $11 trillion. That's equivalent of 35% of the market cap. So we are facing the same or similar situation as Black Monday.
Nisha Shoyal, I want to come to you next. How do you analyse Donald Trump, the US president's dealings in this entire matter? We have retaliatory tariffs from China, which obviously can be seen as stemming a lot of this crash. We also have a possible retaliation proposal, which is expected from the European Union today. How do you analyse Trump's actions in these matters?
So, thank you. So, I would say that, because it has
Hello, can you hear me? My apologies, we believe to have some technical issues with Nisha. We go back to Dr. Jajit. Can you, I want to ask you the same question. How do you analyse Donald Trump's decision-making within the past few days when it comes to his economic policy? As I said previously, these have largely stemmed from China's retaliatory tariffs that they have imposed. Also, as I said, there's going to be a possible EU retaliation in the coming days, with a proposal expected today and a vote expected on Wednesday. How do you analyse both Trump's actions in this and also the European reaction and the Chinese reaction?
I think there's an element of not being able to forecast that Europe and China will react. I think from the steps that were taken, I believe there's some miscalculation, because I believe the US administration did not factor in that there will be retaliatory tariffs. Their thought was that what others are saying in terms of retaliatory tariffs will not necessarily be imposed. But as we see, the reality is that many of the large economies, and European Union is almost the second largest economy after US, is actually going to put in these tariffs, and that's going to be detrimental to it. So it's a full-blown trade war that we're seeing.
Nisha, I believe we have the technical issues sorted. Waking up this morning and you seeing these negative numbers across the Indo-Pacific region's stock markets, what were your thoughts and how do you read this situation?
I see it as no doubt, there are negative things and there are blood math in the market. But I think our government is very strong. So, government, businessmen, and they will definitely, work out on the things, and we'll have these things settled down in maybe by another 1 to 3 months time span. So, as we have seen that there are, retaliated signs. Europe and China are showing this, but I think that Indian government is working on the we are working on this, we are negotiating on bilateral trade agreement. So we'll see, we might expect a lower tariff for Indian thing. And if you see the whole scenario, then our India is not at that worse situation than others.
Nisha, do you think people should be worried? What are the long-term effects of something like this happening?
No, I don't think that, no doubt, we can see that investors are panicking a lot, but I would say it is loss for the one who is booking it. But otherwise, it is an unrealized loss. Just if you're a long-term investor, if you have good stocks in your portfolio, then just, stay quiet. I would say that wait and watch would be the best strategy at this time. Or rather, I would recommend that, you should put extra systematic investment plans, extra SIPs on the large cap funds. So there is no situation to panic. Just wait and watch would be the best strategy at this point of time.
Dr. Bhattacharya and Nisha Soyal, thank you very much for joining us. We now move on. US President Donald Trump says peace talks are underway with Russia as the White House pushes for a resolution to the Russia-Ukraine war. Speaking aboard Air Force One, Trump told reporters that Washington is urging Moscow to stop the violence. His remarks come as Ukrainian President Zelensky confirms that Ukraine has accepted a US-backed proposal for a full unconditional ceasefire, but claims Russia is refusing to comply. Zelensky also criticized the US for what he called a weak response in a deadly missile strike in his hometown Kirovig, which killed 18 people, including 9 children. This is what the Ukrainian president had to say.
Якщо припинення вогню, то безумовне і таке, що взагалі не дозволяє знищувати життя. Україна погодилась на пропозицію Америки. На пропозицію повного, безумовного припинення вогню. Путін відмовляється. Ми очікуємо реакції Сполучених Штатів. Досі її немає.
Meanwhile, Russia has intensified attacks across Ukraine, including in Kyiv, where explosions were reported overnight. Despite a temporary pause in strikes on energy infrastructure, both sides accuse each other of violations. Let's turn to Europe now, where Marine Le Pen has vowed to fight on after a court banned her from running for office for 5 years over misuse of EU funds. Speaking at a rally near the Eiffel Tower, she called the verdict a witch hunt and a political decision. Le Pen was found guilty of helping embezzle nearly €3 million and handed a 4-year prison sentence, 2 of which are suspended, plus a €100,000 fine. Let's listen to what Marine Le Pen had to say at the rally.
Celle de la brutalisation, chère à d'autres formations politiques. Mais celle pacifique du pasteur Martin Luther King pour les droits civiques des citoyens américains à l'époque opprimés et privés de droits. Nous entendons pour cela inviter tous les Français épris de liberté à s'engager à nos côtés dans une résistance pacifique et démocratique, une résistance populaire et
National Rally Party President Jordan Bardella called it a direct attack on democracy and warned it was meant to sideline Le Pen ahead of the 2027 presidential race. Though she's appealing the verdict, many in her party are already looking to Bardella as a possible successor. Here's what Bardella said during the rally.
Cette décision judiciaire injuste et scandaleuse prononcée contre Marine et visant à l'éliminer de la course à la présidentielle est d'abord une attaque directe contre la démocratie, une blessure pour des millions de Français patriotes. Ce n'est pas seulement absurde et révoltant, c'est une provocation face à laquelle il nous appartient de défendre notre honneur et de défendre jusqu'au bout notre innocence.
French government officials pushed back with Prime Minister Gabriel Attal, saying, "You steal, you pay," while accusing foreign leaders like Trump and Orban of interference. Despite the ban, the case may not be resolved before summer 2026, leaving Le Pen's candidacy technically still possible. A recent poll shows that most French voters believe the ruling was fair, but the political fallout is just beginning. Let's listen in to what the opposition leaders had to say.
L'extrême droite, pour ceux qui en doutaient, montre son vrai visage. Il ne suffit pas de porter des cravates à l'Assemblée nationale. L'extrême droite est un parti dangereux, dangereux pour la démocratie, dangereux pour l'état de droit. C'est un parti violent qui menace, y compris les juges quand les décisions prises par la justice ne leur conviennent pas.
A Palestinian-American teenager, 14-year-old Omar Mohammed Rabia, was shot dead by Israeli forces in the West Bank town of turmoil on Sunday. The Israeli military claimed the teens were throwing rocks and posed a threat to civilians. However, Palestinian officials condemned the incident as an extrajudicial killing, accusing Israeli forces of acting outside the law. This incident comes amid escalating violence in the West Bank, where Israeli military operations against groups have intensified. In Gaza, the Civil Defense Agency reported that Israeli airstrikes killed at least 44 people on Sunday, including 21 in the southern city of Khan Yunis. One strike hit a group near a bakery in Gaza City, killing 6 people. Israel's Prime Minister vowed a strong response to rockets fired from the Hamas-ruled territory, further worsening tensions in the region. The death toll from the airstrikes is expected to rise as the conflict continues to escalate. Staying in the Middle East now, where tensions remain high along the Israel-Lebanon border. The Israeli military confirmed it carried out an airstrike in southern Lebanon, killing 2 individuals in the town of Zibquin. According to the IDF, the strike targeted Hezbollah operatives who were attempting to rebuild what they described as terror infrastructure using an engineering vehicle. Lebanon's health ministry also confirmed the deaths, stating the individuals were operating a bulldozer at the time. The incident follows continued clashes along the border, with Israel's military leadership vowing to take offensive action while fortifying defences. The leader of Turkey's main opposition party called for expected elections to be held at latest in November, following the country's most widespread unrest in a decade. In the days following Imamoglu's arrest, the CHP drew tens of thousands of people into the streets of Istanbul and many cities in Turkey to denounce the coup d'etat. A In response, Turkey has clamped down on the protests, with authorities detaining nearly 2,000 people, including several hundred students, journalists and young people. Özel said that the protests were the greatest censure in history, as people stepped out to show their massive disapproval against the then government's functioning. Here is what Özel had to say.
Cesaretin varsa geleceksin. Eğer istiyorsan Haziran'ın ilk haftasında en kısa takvimle. Yok, yetişemem. O zaman görev sürenin yarısında. En son Kasım ayında çıkacaksın ve adayımızla yarışacaksın.
Let's turn to the African continent now, where around 30 people have died in flooding in the Democratic Republic of Congo's capital, Kinshasa. The provincial health minister has confirmed on Sunday. Torrential weekend rains caused the river to overflow, sweeping through homes and cutting off roads. With Kinshasa's population of 17 million left reeling, many neighbourhoods remain without power or water. Governor Daniel Bumba blamed illegal housing and warned of potential evictions. Let's listen in to what locals had to say.
Il y a des boutiques à Nakati, biloko nyonso ebebi. Il y a des véhicules, biloko nyonso ebebi. Bandako kuei, batu bakufi, batu bakangami. Chez boza na drone bo matsa drone bo mande batu bakangami na bandako ti likolo ya bato. Ekomi ka individu abimisi bua tunde to mofuta pona kolanda batu sumele.
Hydrologist Dr. Raphael Shimanga noted that long-term human impact had weakened the river's capacity to hold floodwaters. The disaster adds pressure on the country, already battling M23 rebel violence in the east, where over 7,000 have died this year alone. We move over to Europe now, where a manhunt is underway after 3 bodies were discovered in a residential building in Wheatfield, a village in western Germany. The victims, a family consisting of a 47-year-old man, a 44-year-old woman and a 16-year-old boy, were found after the suspect fled the scene. Police have warned local residents to stay at home and avoid picking up hitchhikers. A special task force and a police helicopter have been deployed in the search, which will continue overnight. Wheatfield, with a population of around 2,200, is on high alert, and the local mayor expressed shock over the tragic event, saying that he never imagined such violence in his small community. We move to the Indo-Pacific now, where South Korea is preparing for a snap presidential election, with the cabinet expected to finalise June the 3rd as the official polling date. This comes just days after President Yoon Suk-yeol was removed from office by the Constitutional Court for violating his duties. Yoon had declared martial law in December and mobilised troops to stop parliamentary proceedings, an act that led to his ouster. According to South Korean law, a new election must be held within 60 days of the president's removal. While the June the 3rd date has been widely reported, officials say it will only be official once declared by acting President and Prime Minister Han Duck-soo. The cabinet is set to meet Tuesday to approve the election date, which would also be a national holiday. We move to the US now, where a second child has died from measles as an outbreak of the highly contagious virus continues to grow in western Texas. The school-aged child was not vaccinated, had no underlying health conditions, and was in hospital suffering complications from the infectious disease. In a statement posted on social media, US Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. confirmed the child's demise. He also paid a visit to the epicenter of Texas's still growing measles epidemic. The same day, a funeral was conducted for the second child. The US has recorded more than 600 cases of measles so far this year, nearly 3 times as many as the 285 cases that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recorded all of last year. Many of this year's cases were recorded in unvaccinated people and are related to the outbreak that began in western Texas. Cases in New Mexico, Oklahoma and Kansas are likely linked to the original outbreak, public health experts say. We stay in the US with more news. Flooding across the US, South and Midwest worsened, threatening communities already reeling from days of heavy rain and wind that have killed at least 18 people. From Texas to Ohio, officials scrambled to shut off utilities, close roads and protect homes with sandbags. In Frankfort, Kentucky, rescuers used inflatable boats to navigate flooded streets as the Kentucky River swelled, expected to crest at a record level on Monday. The ongoing rain could cause further flooding, with more severe weather expected across Kentucky, Tennessee and Alabama. Authorities are also warning of potential tornadoes in parts of the southeast. The storms have left dozens of locations at major flood stages, with evacuations underway in affected towns. We move to South America now, where in Brazil, supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro rallied in Sao Paulo, backing him just weeks after the Supreme Court voted to put him on trial. Bolsonaro is accused of conspiring to overturn the 2022 election results, which he lost to President Lula da Silva. If convicted, he could face a lengthy prison sentence. The gathering on Paulista Avenue comes after a smaller than expected turnout at a previous event in Rio de Janeiro. Bolsonaro, who called on his supporters to join the protest, said the formal purpose of the rally was to demand amnesty for those convicted in the January the 8th attacks on 2023 on Brazil's government buildings. That violent episode saw thousands storm the Congress, Supreme Court and presidential palace in an attempted coup just days after Lula's inauguration. Bolsonaro is already banned from holding public office until 2030 for undermining Brazil's electoral system. In the Indo-Pacific, for the first time in 6 years, North Korea has hosted the Pyongyang International Marathon, bringing together around 200 foreign runners in a rare glimpse of life inside the reclusive nation. The event, which began in 1981, returned after a pandemic-induced pause and is held annually in April to mark the birth of North Korea's founding leader, Kim Il-sung. The marathon route showcased key landmarks across the capital, including the Arch of Triumph and the Marai Future Scientist Street. Participants had to enter the country through organised tours, mainly offered by Koryo Tours, with packages priced at over €2,000. Spectators filled the Kim Il-sung Stadium, waving gold flags and cheering on runners, while local athlete Pak Kum-dong said public support helped him push through fatigue. No official race results have been released. This marks one of the few instances of international tourism allowed since Pyongyang started easing COVID-19 restrictions last year. Asian markets posted steep losses, ranging from Japan's Nikkei 225 dropping by 6.3% to Australia's ASX 200, which dipped by 6% once again, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng down 9.8%, as well as the US market expecting its worst fallout in nearly 40 years, registering further concerns that Trump tariffs could lead to higher prices, weaker demand and potential a global recession. Indian markets also see a bloodbath, with Nifty Sensex down at 4%, with small handicaps and mid-caps crumbling. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng index plummeted by more than 9% as Chinese tech giants saw significant losses, with Alibaba down over 14% and Tencent losing more than 10%. In Japan, Renesas Electronics led the way with a sharp drop of 14.10% as of 12:50 p.m. Singapore time. Other significant losses were seen in SoftBank Group, which fell 10.14%, and Advantest Corp, which pared its losses to 7.91%. The widespread sell-off reflects mounting concerns about the global economic outlook. US officials say more than 50 countries and territories have reached out to Washington for trade talks. We are now joined by Akshita Thomas, Associate Producer for NewsX Wealth, located in New Delhi. Akshita, what can you tell us about this ongoing stock crisis?
Chief Justice of India has asked?
Yes, hello Tom. So our biggest update today morning is that the US the stock market in Asia have plummeted. The numbers have plunged, and the Asian markets have taken a big hit since Trump has vowed the tariffs. If we are taking a look at the numbers, we can see that DAX performance has plunged significantly. We have a 4.9% fall. And if we look at other markets, we see Euro Next has taken another hit at 5.9%, 0.9% they have fallen. We look at NASDAQ index, they've hit 5.82%, they have fallen. And we can see that Dow Jones has fallen another 5.50%. And S&P index has also taken a hit with 5.97%. And we follow up with FTSE, which has hit 4.95%. Moving on to Shanghai Composite, we have seen a 6.94% fall, followed by CSI, which has hit another 6.59. So since Trump has been defiant on the sticking to the tariffs, we have seen Asian markets take the biggest hit, and we've seen Asian markets fall, and the US market has had a sell-off of almost 6.3 trillion in their markets shares today. We are following up as European markets are to open soon. We are yet to see more numbers fall.
Yes.
Let's see what we're to expect.
Akshita, I just want to bring some breaking news in. Trading has started on the London Stock Exchange just a few moments ago, and the FTSE 100 index has opened down 2.4%. So that is European markets now opening as well, and there seems to be a pattern emerging here. Trading has started at 8 o'clock this morning GMT, and the FTSE has opened down in its worst day since the COVID pandemic hit in early 2020. Banking shares saw some of its biggest losses on Friday, and obviously ongoing in Asia, seeing their biggest falls already in Asia today. Akshita, what can you tell me more about this if you are still with us? Okay, we appear to be having... Okay, thank you.
The call got cut.
Okay, thank you. That's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world. Thank you very much.